The complete work of Swami Vivekananda, video 31. 43. The samadhi, called without question, comes when the memory is purified or devoid of qualities, expressing only the meaning of the meditated object. It is by the practice of meditation of these three that we come to the state where these three do not mix. We can act rid of them. We will first try to understand what these three are. Here is the chitta. You will always remember the simile of the mind stuffed to a lake, and the vibration, the word, the sound, like a pulsation coming over it. You have that calm lake in you, and I pronounce a word, cow. As soon as it enters through your ears, there is a wave produced in your chitta along with it. So that wave represents the idea of the cow, the form or the meaning as we call it. The apparent cow that you know is really the wave in the mind stuff that comes as a reaction to the internal and external sound vibrations. With the sound, the wave dies away. It can never exist without a word. You may ask how it is. When we only think of the cow and do not hear a sound, you make that sound yourself. You are saying cow faintly in your mind, and with that comes a wave. There cannot be any wave without this impulse of sound, and when it is not from outside, it is from inside, and when the sound dies, the wave dies. What remains? The result of the reaction, and that is knowledge. These three are so closely combined in our mind that we cannot separate them. When the sound comes, the senses vibrate and the wave rises in reaction. They follow so closely upon one another that there is no discerning one from the other. When this meditation has been practiced for a long time, memory, the receptacle of all impressions, becomes purified, and we are able clearly to distinguish them from one another. This is called nirvitarka, concentration without question. 44. By this process, the concentrations with discrimination and without discrimination, whose objects are finer, are also explained. A process similar to the preceding is applied again, only the object to be taken up in the former meditation are gross. In this they are fine. 45. The finer objects end with the pradhana. The gross objects are only the elements and everything manufactured out of them. The fine objects begin with the tanmatras or fine particles, the organs, the mind. The mind or common sensorium, the aggregate of all the senses. Egoism, the mind stuff, the cause of all manifestation. The equilibrium state of sattva, rajas, and tamas materials, called pradhana, chief, prakriti, nature, or avyakt, unmanifest, are all included within the category of fine objects, the purusa, the soul, alone being accepted. These concentrations are with seed. These do not destroy the seeds of past actions and thus cannot give liberation. But what they bring to the yogi is stated in the following aphorism. 47. The concentration without discrimination. Being purified, the chitta becomes firmly fixed. 48. The knowledge and that is called filled with truth. The next aphorism will explain this. The knowledge that is gained from testimony and inference is about common objects. That from the samadhi just mentioned is of a much higher order, being able to penetrate where inference and testimony cannot go. The idea is that we have to get our knowledge of ordinary objects by direct perception and by inference therefrom and from testimony of people who are competent. By people who are competent, the yogis always mean the rishis or the seers of the thoughts recorded in the scriptures, the Vedas. According to them, the only proof of the scriptures is that they were the testimony of competent persons. Yet, they say the scriptures cannot take us to realization. We can read all the Vedas and yet will not realize anything. But when we practice their teachings, then we attain to that state which realizes what the scriptures say, which penetrates where neither reason nor perception nor inference can go, and where the testimony of others cannot avail. This is what is meant by the aphorism. Realization is real religion, and all the rest is only preparation. Hearing lectures or reading books or reasoning is merely preparing the ground. It is not religion. Intellectual assent and intellectual dissent are not religion. The central idea of the yogis is that just as we come in direct contact with objects of the senses, so religion even can be directly perceived in a far more intense sense. The truths of religion as God and soul cannot be perceived by the external senses. I cannot see God with my eyes, nor can I touch Him with my hands. And we also know that neither can we reason beyond the senses. Reason leaves us at a point quite indecisive. We may reason all our lives, as the world has been doing for thousands of years, and the result is that we find we are incompetent to prove or disprove the facts of religion. What we perceive directly, we take as the basis, and upon that basis we reason. So it is obvious that reasoning has to run within these bounds of perception. It can never go beyond. The whole scope of realization, therefore, is beyond sense perception. The yogis say that man can go beyond his direct sense perception and beyond his reason also. Man has in him the faculty, the incompetent to prove or disprove the facts, power of transcending his intellect, even a power which is in every being, every creature. By the practice of yoga, that power is aroused, and then man transcends the ordinary limits of reason and directly perceives things which are beyond all reason. 50. The resulting impression from this samadhi obstructs all other impressions. We have seen in the foregoing aphorism that the only way of attaining to that superconsciousness is by concentration, and we have also seen that what hinder the mind from concentration are the past samskaras, impressions. All of you have observed that when you are trying to concentrate your mind, your thought wander. When you are trying to think of God, that is the very time these samskaras appear. At other times, they are not so active. But when you want them not, they are sure to be there, trying their best to crowd in your mind. Why should that be so? Why should they be much more potent at the time of concentration? It is because you are repressing them and they react with all their force. With all their force. At other times, they do not react. How countless these old past impressions must be, all lodged somewhere in the chitta, ready, waiting like tigers to jump up. These have to be suppressed that the one idea which we want may arise, to the exclusion of the others. Instead, they are all struggling to come up at the same time. These are the various powers of the samskaras in hindering concentration of the mind. So, this samadhi, which has just been given, is the best to be practiced. On account of its power of suppressing the samskaras, the samskara which will be raised by this sort of concentration will be so powerful that it will hinder the action of the others and hold them in check.